started buying houses in Ybor City. I would buy a house for $40,000, and I'd buy in the name of, let's say, Alan Duncan or Brandon Green. So I buy it for $40,000.
And that's somebody you created up.
Completely fictitious person. So I then turn around. It's a they call them now. They call them like back then. It was just a phantom borrower.
Okay.
But now they call them synthetic identities.
Okay.
So I turned around. I would go to public records. I was dating a girl at a title company, and she explained to me that if you paid the additional document stamps on a sale, then the sale shows up higher. So I bought it for $40,000. But if I pay an extra $700 to $900, it'll show up for $160,000. You have to do the math, but $160,000 or $140,000 sale. So the house I just bought for $40,000 now looks like I bought it for $160,000 or $200,000 or $190,000, whatever I want. I based it off square footage. I started saying, okay, $110, $120 a square foot in Ybor City.
Yeah.
So I'm buying houses that are 1,400 square feet that are appraised that I'm recording the value. I'm buying for 40, recording the value or the sale at 190, 180. But I bought one in the name Brandon Green, one in the name James Red.
Yeah.
So I've got one here, one here, one here. So I start buying them all over. What happens is when you send out the appraiser goes in and says, "Man, what a piece of garbage house this is." I cleaned it up a little bit,
right?
But he'd be like, "This is a rough area." And I said, "Yeah, you bought it for 190? Yeah. This whole area is going up."
Yeah.
They'd go, "Yeah, I know, but Jesus." And he goes, "Well, there's comparables everywhere, though. That house over there sold for 190? No. That one over there sold for 200?
Oh, yeah, and you own them all.
Of course.
Right. So
that
you're
one there
telling
sold
him
for
the whole neighborhood's
160?
going up.
That's insane.
Oh,
You
my
have the ad,
God.
of course. And so I write down the addresses for him. He's like, "Yeah, I'll check that out." Comes back, he goes, "I can't believe it. I got you an appraisal for $190,000. That's crazy. Thank you so much." Well, then I take that, I send it into the lender. The lender says, "Yeah, well, there's documents that have to support it, of course." So I have supporting documents because, of course, I'm making those documents.
Yeah.
And if they need it to be verified, well, I'll come up with a cell phone,
Right.
or I'll come up with a landline or a website.
Right,
Whatever I
whatever you
need to
need.
come up with, I'm going to come up with. I have a degree in fine arts. I'm fairly creative.
Yeah.
So, I'd come up with the documents and the verifications. And since I'd been in the mortgage industry, I knew what they were going to ask for. What are they looking for? What's the tax ID number? Where are they going to look for it? How can I piggyback off of a real tax ID number on a W-2 and they won't verify it? Or if they do try and call it, they'll go online and they'll look it up in what used to be the business white pages. Well, you can go online and put your business on it. So now they're calling a cell phone that's in the name of a guy that doesn't exist to verify it. Or there's something called HQ. Have you ever heard of HQ? There are these offices that you can rent. They'll be on like the 30th floor down some building downtown. Offices. Well, they'll also for $40 or $50, they'll answer your phone. They'll forward them. They'll collect your mail. They'll forward your mail.
Yeah. So it seems like you got a real deal business in there.
I got a real business card address. So these loans start closing. I buy them for 40, fixing them up for 10, borrowing 150, walking away with $100,000. And each guy, I'm buying at least 5 or 6 houses. So you're getting about $1 million worth of loans. You're walking away with $500,000 or $600,000.
Wow.
And that worked like a charm for a long time.
How long did you do it for?
About 2 years.
About 2 years.
11.5 million is what we borrowed in about 2 years. So,
and every time the loan would go through, the first payment would always default, or
no. Of course, I'm not an idiot.
Right.
I would pay 3, 4, 5 months.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I'd rent them out. Sometimes I just, if the place was so trashed, I just make the payments for at least 3 or 4 months. Keep in mind too, I'd then turn around and I'd borrow personal loans. I'd then get about $30,000-$40,000 worth of credit cards because now this guy's got multiple mortgages.
Right.
He's got perfect credit. So now I can get a bunch of credit cards. Those guys were worth about $500,000-$600,000. So I pulled the money out, and we would do really just stupid things. I had like a drawer filled up with socks that I'm never going to wear. I've got 60 pairs of underwear that, it's just stupid. You don't even know what to, I don't really know. And I'm thinking it's going to last forever because I'd figured out that when they would go into foreclosure, they'd start going into foreclosure, they start sending letters. And I'd get the letters and I would take an article from, like, let's say the Tampa Tribune of a 5-car pileup or a 20-car pileup, and I'd retype the entire article, and I'd insert my guy's name, James Red, into the article. And it'd say James Red was life flighted to Tampa General Hospital. And so I would print out the article on newsprint and make a copy of that. Then I'd write a letter from James Red's sister and saying, listen, my brother was in an accident. Here's the article highlighted. The doctors say even if he wakes up from the coma, he'll never work again.
Yeah.
You might as well go ahead and foreclose on the house. And so they just stopped sending in the letters.
Yeah.
They just foreclose.
Wow.
They make a few phone calls, but they get that letter. It's over. They take the house back and they never come looking. So it worked really well.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So
That's
for a long time.
Crazy.
But you got to make sure you cover all your ends and stuff, you know?
Yeah, I did. You know, I there were one or two times when, for instance, there was a buddy of mine. He's in Tampa and still in real estate. So I won't mention his name. He was in charge of making the payments on this one guy. It was like, look, I'm juggling.
Right,
I'm juggling.
You got your hands full.
8 people.
Yeah.
Everybody's sharing in the profit. You got 10 grand from the last one. You got 20. You got 15. You know, I can't be expected to make all of these payments.
Yeah, keep up with them.
Right. So here's Red. You're going to make the payments for. No, I remember it was Alan Duncan. It was Alan Duncan because it was one of my first ones I'd done, and he's about to foreclose. So I'm like, here's Duncan. You make the payments on the house we just bought, which was like the last house. We're going to make a few payments. All of them are going in foreclosure. So he didn't make the first payment. And I remember the mortgage broker, she comes to my house and she says, oh my God, who was it? Oh my God. Oh, it's South Star Bank? South Star Bank, I don't know if they're still around, but South Star Bank just called. They can't get a hold of Alan Duncan. They said they know that the bank accounts are fake. They know, like they just started, we know this, we know this, we know this. You've got a problem. So I find out, I go to the guy, the guy said, what happened? And he says, oh my God, I forgot to make the first payment. I didn't know it was due already. So I get South Star on the phone. I call up and I say, listen, this is Alan Duncan. I need to talk with, this guy. I forget what his name was. Let's say Mr. Johnson. And they go, oh, he's in a meeting. I said, well, this is Alan Duncan. I assure you he wants to talk to me immediately. Please interrupt the meeting. It's extremely important. So the secretary interrupts, and boom, they put me on the phone, and it's their head of fraud department, some lawyer, and like a vice president of the bank.
Wow.
And they're like, okay, Mr. Duncan? And I'm like, yes. They're like, okay, well, we've spent quite a bit of time looking over your file here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And they said, we got a $140,000 loan to a man that doesn't exist because we know you don't exist. And I'm like, okay, well, listen, I'm not sure where this is coming from. I mean, I understand I missed a payment. I'm putting it in the mail today. We should have this all today. Oh no, it's too late for that. It's too late for that. And so I went, okay, well, let me catch up the payment. And he's like, no. He's like, look, we're going to submit this to the FBI. We're going to do a full investigation. You're going to end up. I remember he kept saying it was something like a 6x6 or an 8x8 concrete box. I remember he kept saying that. Yeah. You're going to end up in an 8x8 concrete box. And anyway, I said to him, they were real cocky about it.
Yeah.
And I'd been caught before. I got caught one time with $2 million, but the loans had already been, part of the package had already been sold to Household Bank, and the lender he wasn't willing to push the issue because it was several $1 million he was going to be on the hook for.
Yeah.
So he just continued to sell the paper.
Right.
And so he let me off and came back and told me to keep sending loans. This is when I owned the mortgage company. But these guys were cocky. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, so as we're talking, I was like, okay, they're really cocky about this. And so at one point I said, okay, I don't understand. I said, aren't you guys concerned about getting your money back? I mean, I'm trying to give you your money back here. Yeah. And they said, oh, we'll get our money back when we foreclose on the property. And I went, oh, I said, now I get it. You think that your $140,000 loan is attached to a property worth $180. And they're like, right. I said, no. Now things, I could always now things are going to shift in my favor. I can feel it. So I said, okay, let me explain what I did. Do you have the appraisal in front of you? Yeah. So I'd sent them obviously our appraisal. They'd done what's called a desktop review where they review it, but they don't actually go out to the property. They just review it. They have an appraiser review it. And I explained, look, take a look at comp number 1. That's owned by a guy named Lee Black. Comp number 2, James Red. Comp number 3, David Silver. And I explained what I did. I did this, paid the doc stamp, boom, boom, boom. I said,
you told them all.
I have to at this point. I got to try and convince them.
That's your only angle, you think?
Right. I'm done anyway.
Yeah.
So I said, look, here's the deal. And so they're like, oh, my God. I said, right. So I said, as you can see, you have a piece of property that I bought for $40,000. I paid an extra $1,100 to get it to appraise at $180,000. The appraiser had everybody involved. The appraiser did exactly what he's supposed to do. He didn't do anything wrong. The mortgage broker's never seen me. She did everything by the telephone. She doesn't have any clue what's going on. Every single document was provided by me. You lent the money. Your underwriters lent the money doing exactly what they do. Right. Everybody involved in the transaction does what they do on a daily basis, and I walked away with the money. Now, if you want to get your money back, you'll let me cut you a check, and you'll agree not to contact the FBI. So we end up working out an agreement where they let me cut them a check back. And that's not the only time that happened. I've had it happen with Washington Mutual we'd done like 8 owner-occupied properties one time. You understand, an owner-occupied property is like your house is an owner-occupied property, right? If you go buy a rental property, it's a rental property. They lend you about 80%, maybe 70%.
Right.
Well, I had a realtor that had bought 8 duplexes. All of them we said were owner-occupied with 8 different lenders. Got caught that time. Ended up that several of those duplexes were on Washington Mutual's credit lines with different lenders, and Washington Mutual ended up with all of them. And they figured out, we've got 3, not all 8, but they had like 3. So their lawyer contacted us, said, look, this is what you did. This is illegal. This is this is that. And of course, they don't even know that the W-2s are fake. They don't even know how bad it is.
Yeah.
So I convinced them to take like $30,000 less money to just let us refinance them. And the lawyer accepted that. He was okay with that.
Really?
It's insane.